All right, we're live, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for being here. We have Zen and I have a special guest, high altitude investing, Dalin. It's good to have you here.
It's good to be here.
Cool. And we're just going to talk about Grays Currencies. And you were just so we always have these pre-stream conversations, and oftentimes I'm like itching to just go live because you guys are going to want to hear what we're talking about. So we just did that, and you just mentioned that you didn't even know about UFO until last night, you mentioned, right?
Yeah, so I've been looking at pTGC for probably I don't know how long, just because of my influence or my being introduced to the Richard Hart ecosystem a couple few years ago, like in 2020. So I've been paying attention to all of the different charts and stuff. First hex, E hex, and then P hex and pulse chain and all that good stuff. And so I've known about pTGC for a little while, but actually because I'm still fairly new to the to like some of the more smaller coins or some of the newer, not the main ones in the Richard Hart ecosystem. I didn't even know about UFO until last night. So,
Sweet,
but
sweet.
it looks good too. It looks just like pTGC, and it's like they're gonna follow each other. It's kind of like how how like everything follows Bitcoin up and down, even though sometimes they lag behind a little bit.
Yeah,
That's really how these markets a lot of times work, and it's cool because you can buy something like UFO that follows pTGC, and if the market cap is smaller, a lot of times you can get an even bigger percentage gain on some of those smaller
right,
market cap coins that you just know it's going to follow the bigger one anyway. So it's kind of cool.
right. Didn't even mention we got the founder of both assets here with us, the Grade 369.
Yeah, what's up, guys? Dalin, I wanted to say thank you for coming in. I really appreciate it. One focus I have right now is kind of reaching outside of the Pulse Chain ecosystem, even though, like you said, you've been here for 5 years paying attention. It sounds like you do spend a lot of your time on other blockchains and other investments. So I'm super glad to just have you here and have conversations with people who aren't really in the echo chamber of Pulse Chain and also have their radar outward as well. And, you know, if you have questions on pTGC, UFO, I'm here to answer them. Also can kind of give you the rundown on why pTGC and UFO, kind of where I come from, why with a group of guys kind of founded pTGC and UFO, and with the community have been pushing really hard to get these things in the front of pretty much everyone we can because we think it's a product everyone is looking for. I feel like my story of cryptocurrency is very similar to pretty much almost every person that gets into cryptocurrency, and I think pTGC and UFO are both a solution for them.
Yeah, obviously I'm a technical analyst, so I always look at the charts first. Is this going to make me money? Is this going to screw my portfolio over? That's like the very first thing I care about, right? Because my purpose for getting into crypto, I'll be 100% honest. I fell in love with the technology. I did do that, so I can say that. But I also like totally want to make tons of money, and I have before too. And so that's why I look at the charts and stuff. And I can tell you that when I look at the pTGC chart, it does look phenomenally good. Like it looks so bullish to me, and I'm so excited about what's coming. And not only pTGC, but really the whole Richard Hart ecosystem. People really don't even know how undervalued it really is right now. It's crazy.
It is crazy. I spend a lot of my time thinking about people who are getting in right now into Pulse Chain are literally getting a 20x better deal pretty much than the people who sacrificed 5 years ago. With for sure on PulseX, it's more like a 15x better deal for Pulse Chain. But either way, like the opportunity there is just insane. Even if it's, you're not hoping for a 10x sacrifice price or a 100x sacrifice just to levels that we've seen before on Pulse Chain 2 years ago. It's a 28x from these levels. And a 28x on a blockchain is, I personally think a pretty awesome move. And then if you're in alt tokens that can do X's over the blockchain during those moves, like you're kind of talking about when Bitcoin starts moving or with ETH starts moving, you can be in some smaller assets that have the ability to reap the benefits of the bigger asset moves due to bonded liquidity, but they also have the ability to do their own X's over it. I kind of coined that term, the X-multiplier, because I broke it down in a way to make it easy for people to understand how easy it is to do large amounts of X's. If you want me to dig into that, I can, but just the opportunity to be in the right products down here at the bottom of, this cycle is crazy. And sadly, a lot of people probably won't take action on it because, they overinvested at sacrifice price or half of sacrifice price. But I do think if you are willing and able to DCA these lows on Pulse Chain or other great tokens on Pulse Chain like pTGC and UFO, I think it's people are going to reap the benefits of it, even just going back to levels that we've seen before on Pulse Chain.
Yeah, no, they definitely will. And that's just the name of the game with crypto. Like, if you don't mind, I'll pop up my chart here. Can you guys all see this? Can you guys see my?
I do not.
I got to put it up.
Okay, cool. So this is what crypto does, right? Some of you guys have been here longer. Some of you guys are newer. My little brother told me about Bitcoin in 2015. He'd watched a Watch Mojo. I don't know if you guys know that YouTube channel, Watch Mojo. He'd watch this video like this. He's like 15 or 14 years old or something. He watches this video about Bitcoin, that you can mine money with your computer and that it's worth real money. And you just have to run software on your computer and you can do this. And I looked at him and I said, that sounds like the biggest freaking scam I've ever heard of in my entire life. There's no way that you can mine real money with your computer, And so, but then I looked into it a little bit and was like, this isn't a scam. I told my brother to be careful what he reads on the internet and watches. Then I looked into it and I was like, dude, my little brother's like, he's kind of like a gangster. Like, he's like way ahead of the curve. And so I started doing some research and I fell in love with the principle of freedom and stuff, because money is so controlled and manipulated by central authorities. And it aligned with my political beliefs of freedom and independence and being able to have ownership over your finances and, concerns with corruption and government and all that kind of stuff. And so I've been here since 2015. I bought my first Bitcoin in 2015. So watching these cycles, it's the same thing over and over. So let me pull up just as an example here, because some of you guys don't like Cardano. Some of you guys like Cardano. Who cares whether you do or not? The purpose of this is just to show you what crypto does, right? Cardano got released in 2017 and it went to the moon, but most people bought right here. And then most people sold right here. And so this is just what crypto does. New coins get released during bull markets when people are excited, because that's the best time for these businesses and companies to release new coins, because there's excitement and hype. And so it's easy to get funding and for all of that good stuff. But then because all of the excitement is happening in the peak of these bull markets, people wonder why their favorite projects drop 95%. And then they sell at the bottom a lot of times. Like you said, people that got in and sacrificed to the start, some of those people are down significantly. And a lot of them, unfortunately, instead of doubling down like you're supposed to do, they sell right here where this green arrow is right here. And this is just an example of a crypto cycle, but this is what happens. And then they sell right here and boom, then the bull market happens. And it's just a rinse and repeat of that over and over. And it's true for the Richard Hart ecosystem just as much as anything else, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And, it has to happen, right? There has to be that process of people getting in and then those people getting washed out who aren't willing to patiently wait. And then there's the new flow of users to come in. And if you aren't lucky enough to grab the bottom, at least hold on to your bag, because the market will come back in our favor. Cryptocurrency is getting more adopted than ever. You have Ethereum right now sitting at a 60% discount than the price it was 5 years ago, right? Like I always think about that, like the all-time high, not this last cycle, but the cycle before, which is pretty much the exact same price, was like 5 years ago, and we're on a 60% discount. I just feel like this is the time, even if it's not Pulse Chain or if it's not pTGC or if it's not UFO, if it's just more general markets, like Ethereum, for example, these are the times where you should be loading up your bags, buying in the bear so you can sell in the bull.
Yeah, it's crazy that we're still 60% down from our previous all-time high in 2021. That tells you that 2021 and 2017 were more like a proper bubble where people are excited about technology, but it's not like being adopted yet. So it's still got that pump and dump kind of attitude to it. But as markets mature over time, they move out of that kind of bubble phase and they basically go into a more mature market. And that's what happened to the internet and home computing. If you look at Apple or Amazon or any of those companies associated with the internet and home computing, they had a bubble, then that bubble popped, and everybody talks about the bubble popping, and everybody talks about how a bunch of people lost money, but nobody talks about how the fact that people made billions of dollars buying the dip after the bubble popped when mass adoption happened. And that's exactly, I agree with you 100%. That's exactly where crypto is at. Crypto is at the bottom of this bubble pop right now. It's kind of like investing in internet stocks or home computing companies in 2003 or even 2009 before we had the full-blown recovery in the stock market. And if you look right here, here's the internet bubble right here. You can see this is the peak of the internet bubble. The people that bought in 2003 or in 2009 at the bottom of that bubble pop, those were the people that came out on top, but people want to emphasize the bubble pop and people losing money instead of all the people that got rich off the actual adoption of that technology, So that's kind of the way I look at it, right?
Yeah, I love that chart. It's just such a great illustration of what we could be seeing here in the future for cryptocurrency, because we can see it happening firsthand, the adoption of these banks and these companies right now, specifically with Ethereum. We actually can see them building on top of Ethereum. And I don't think that's really been priced in yet, but it's happening behind the scenes.
No, that's so true. And that's kind of what happens too, is people, because markets are emotional and human emotion moves markets, is the primary driver in markets. People don't want to invest when the price is down because they're not excited about it. But that's usually when all the real development is happening. And so that's the best time to be buying, is when people are not excited, but the development is really, the nitty gritty stuff is really happening, And that's what we see right now with crypto. Let's pull up, let me see if I can switch to this tab here. Let's take a look at pTGC and some of the pulse chain.
Yeah,
coins,
let's do it.
The thing is crypto. Well, actually, before we do that, let's switch right back, because I want to give my thesis on why I believe crypto will go up and not just say it's just going to, because, So let me pull up the...
When you say up, Dalin, like what kind of time frame are you referring to? I mean, obviously, we think it's all going to go up, but like when?
Yeah,
that's the question on everyone's mind.
The classic when moon meme that everybody follows. Yeah, no,
when Lambo.
Yeah, when
Right.
Lambo. A lot of people think it's like 4 years out. That's a pretty common belief right now. Oh, it's going to be 2-3 years of bear market or whatever, because of everybody that's just watched the last correction on altcoins and they think it's going to last forever. But for me, 2026 will be a big year for crypto. That's what I see in the charts. That's what I'm betting my business on, my reputation on, my money on, everything, my life literally on that crypto will. And if I'm wrong, I obviously have backup plans and ways to mitigate and stuff. But I'm confident enough to bet everything that I've worked 10 years to build on the fact that this is what's going to happen for crypto. So let me show you here what I see happening with basically what's happening with Bitcoin. Bitcoin being like the visual representation of the crypto markets as a whole, right? If you look at Bitcoin, it's kind of like, if Bitcoin goes up, then crypto is going to do good, kind of a thing. So if you pull up Bitcoin here on the left and we pull up Apple, and the reason why I do this, because markets, the same types of things happen in history over and over again, especially like if you study new technologies being adopted, you start to see the same types of patterns appearing in the markets. because history doesn't repeat itself, but it often rhymes. And so you get the same type of stuff happening over and over. It's the same kind of thing. Like if any of you guys have ever studied history and like looked at how many times people have done the same stupid things, but like a little bit of a different, place or country that it happened in, but it's the same stupid thing that humans did again. Well, that's kind of, in this case, not the same stupid thing necessarily, but the same type of thing happens in markets over and over again, because people are biological creatures. And even though we all have unique differences, we also have very similar wirings in our brains. And so we have similar types of responses to things over and over. And that actually appears in the charts. And so you can see right here, I have Apple. Again, I have Apple on the right and Bitcoin over here on the left. And this is basically Apple as it came out of the internet bubble right here into mass adoption and, became for a while the biggest company in the entire world. NVIDIA passed it up. But this huge bull market that came on Apple, basically what caused that was demand for new technology, which is home computing and the internet. And you can see here on the Apple chart early on in that trend before it went into mass adoption, if you look at the volume, there's billions of dollars in institutional volume here early on in the chart. And if you look at Bitcoin currently, you actually see the exact same thing. Bitcoin has billions of dollars in institutional volume that's been happening since 2017, but more especially since the FTX crash, where big institutions basically took advantage of a massive drop in the markets and bought just stupid amounts of crypto in 2022 and 2023. And Bitcoin is essentially set up to do the same type of growth that happened to Apple because of a new technology being adopted by the public. That's kind of my position on Bitcoin and crypto as a whole, is that crypto is headed from just this pump and up kind of attitude that we saw before into more of a mature market, into something that's being mass adopted by the public. Which is kind of cool, that we're going to move out of that phase of just total immaturity into a mature market that actually behaves like a proper technology, right? And here's the total a proper mass adopted technology. Here is the total crypto market cap as well. You can see the same type of thing. So essentially, this right here with crypto is like early day Apple, before Apple really went full force into its uptrend and became something that everybody knows about and everybody uses. That's where crypto is at right now. It's the same point. In fact, buying the total crypto market cap or whatever crypto you're buying, right, is like basically the same as buying Apple right here in 2013, before Apple went up for another big pump. And you can see that pretty clearly in the chart. So that's my view on crypto as a whole. So with that being said, well, if we look at something like pTGC, if crypto as a whole, we believe is going to go up because of what it's doing, because it has real world demand, it solves real world problems. It's going through the same type of thing that other technologies went through as they became mass adopted by the public. Well, then you can go find some of these other opportunities like pTGC here that literally only has 35 million in market cap, which is, first of all, that's pretty awesome that you guys got that much market cap. Like, that's pretty cool that you're able to do that. Second of all, it's still really small, but it's big enough that it's not just some crappy meme coin pump and dump on Dex Screener that's going to die and never return. This actually has a real community behind it, and there's pretty cool stuff that the pTGC is doing. And so it's like a perfect opportunity. It's not too small to be completely risky, but it's not so big that you can't make good money on it. Like Bitcoin is probably only maybe going to give you like 10x max or something. It could go to 600K or 400K or 250,000 or wherever it stops. We know it's going to go pretty high, but it's not going to give you 30 times, 40 times like a lot of these other setups will. And so that's one of the reasons that I'm big on the Richard Hart ecosystem, even though some people hate it. My YouTube channel, I mainly talk about other coins on there, but I do talk about the Richard Hart ecosystem. So I kind of came from normal world of crypto into this ecosystem. But the reason why I did it is because the opportunity is so big in these setups here to make a bunch of money that it's almost dumb not to buy these setups, even if the rest of sometimes the crypto community totally hates on Richard Hart and this whole ecosystem. It's like, dude, look at the opportunity, and that's what you should focus on. So
Yeah, Dalin, do you mind if I chime into that a little bit?
sure, yeah, no, I'd love to have you.
So one thing I actually was pointing this out yesterday, and it's kind of about the market cap of pTGC. Right now, pTGC launched pretty much within the first few months of Pulse Chain's launch, right? And the launch of pTGC happened pretty much at 4 zeros and a 6 for the price of Pulse Chain. And obviously that's our main pair. Every single transaction actually adds to that pair. So we are directly bonded and get pulled up and down with Pulse Chain, unlike if we were bonded to USDC or something like that. We're directly getting tugged around. And we went from 100K market cap all the way up to a 400 million market cap. And on other blockchains, these X's are usually done in the bull market of the gas token, right? Like Ethereum's moving up with you and you're getting free X's from the blockchain. And the blockchain going up is a good indication of money and users flowing in. So you get to actually tap into this money and users. So you're not only getting X's from the gas token moving up because of bonded liquidity, which is a massive multiplier, but you're also getting X's because new users and new money are flowing in. Just like when mall doors open and you have a store inside the mall, you get these new users walking in through the door. When pTGC went to its all-time high, Pulse Chain was actually a lower price than when pTGC even launched. So there was technically less value on chain, less users on chain, and we got 0 X's from the blockchain itself. We're able to go from 100K market cap all the way up to a 400 million market cap with just our own community and our own code, which I feel is pretty impressive compared to most other tokens out there. When you look at like or technically 2 cycles ago, when we had this massive DeFi season and just alt token season, I'll use Hex as an example because everyone likes to talk about how Hex did a 10,000x on Ethereum. But a lot of people don't realize that 10 of those X's, or a 10x of those X's, was from Ethereum going from $400 to $4,000. So that was a 10x multiplier to the gains of what Hex was doing. So really what Hex did against Ethereum was 1,000x, and then ETH doing that extra 10x, because that's where its liquidity was, gave them that 10,000x. So what we were able to do last cycle, this is called the X-multiplier. I can break it down a little bit. We were able to go to a 400 million market cap without 1x from the blockchain. And this is why from these levels here, I feel super confident in the X's never being easier, because Pulse Chain is so low now. We can pull off 100x very easily, because if we just did a 10x over Pulse Chain, which we've done in the past plenty of times, and Pulse Chain just does a measly 10x, which pretty much just gets us back to like the price that pTGC launched on Pulse Chain at, you get to multiply those two things together. I call this the X multiplier. A lot of people think it's an addition thing, to where if the blockchain you're built on does a 10x and then you do a 10x against the blockchain, they're like, oh, okay, 10 plus 10, that's a 20x for the alt token you're in. But it's actually a multiplication thing. And the reason you don't see this within alt tokens a lot of time is because most alt tokens fail. 99.9% of alt tokens never make it. They never return the following cycle. A lot of them don't even last a month. They die within a month. So pTGC, because of its sustainability and its code and its community, we've been able to track this information for 2.5 years now, and it's a multiplication thing. So when we get gains from this blockchain, which we haven't yet, and we're still at a 35 million market cap, the blockchain's actually 9x lower than when we even launched. We're still at a 35 mil market cap. But when this chain flips around, it's a massive multiplier to the price of pTGC. And this doesn't even include the kinds of X's that we can do on our own, which we've proven that we can do on our own, due to being at a 35 mil market cap. even though the blockchain is down 9x.
Yeah, you look at the pulse chain chart here and you can see it's been in a downtrend for, multiple years here, but your coin literally had a bull market in the middle of this, which is pretty cool. The fact that you're able to do that as opposed to like, EHEX that had to have, like you say, the Ethereum bull market to basically send it 10,000x and stuff. Which was really cool too, by the way, for the people that have followed my X account and my Twitter, formerly Twitter account, for a long time. You guys know that EHEX actually what kind of cued me into the EHEX pump, and I called the pump up 10,000, that whole 10,000x move. Well, not the entire move, but pretty much the whole move was technical analysis, the exact stuff that I was using to share my views on the total crypto market cap here. I used technical analysis in this cup and handle pattern right here on EHEX to call this whole bull market up here in 2021 when it went all the way to the moon right here. So it's kind of cool to see how the technical analysis works really well. And it's cool to see the opportunity in the Richard Hart ecosystem, like what you've taken advantage of to build Zen, to build your project. You were able to send a coin to the moon even during a bear market. And that really does show the strength of the opportunity, I guess, inside of this ecosystem as a whole.
Yeah, because during those times, there are inflows of users. Like during that push up that we've done, or even the couple pushes that we've done up, we've had 2 significant pushes within pTGC. Both those times, pTGC has done like a 50x move. In those same exact time frames, you can actually see ETH moving up during those time frames and Pulse Chain moving up during those time frames.
But not in the bigger scope of it.
Yeah, it's not a 50x. Like ETH
right.
moving up like 2x. But what that symbolizes, ETH moving up is a symbolize of value flowing in and users flowing in, right? And then what we've seen in those time frames is when ETH has moved up 2x, we were seeing Pulse Chain moving up like 5x, right? Obviously more x's, but nothing like a 50x. But still, Pulse Chain moving up 5x, what that shows is new money and new users flowing into the chain. Every time there's been the gas token moving up, which is new money and new users flowing into the chain, the gas token doesn't move up without that. We've been able to do a lot of X's because this actually turns on the pTGC machine, because we generate revenue off of the volatility of the Pulse Chain market. So every time Pulse Chain kind of starts waking up a little bit, our system really starts to turn on. And then when our system turns on, it starts attracting users. So then we actually get to bring in a lot more of that value. And then we use that value to buy and burn and add more LP and reward holders. So it's very much a system that generates revenue off of that activity of the chain. And when you look at the chain right now, the activity is all-time lows, but we're still thriving. So then you have to ask yourself, well, what happens when this chain turns around? I personally believe that this chain is going to turn around. Even if it doesn't turn around to the levels that a lot of people thought it could when Pulse Chain launched, a lot of people were calling for 100x over sacrifice price or a 10x over sacrifice price. But where we are right now and what pTGC has evolved into, we don't even need Pulse Chain to do crazy numbers. Just going back to numbers that it was 2 years ago, it's a 28x from these levels. And pTGC, the most X's it's seen out of the gas token to date is a 5x. So that would be 4 times what we've even seen as far as an uptrend of the gas token to date. And like we brought up, we've been able to do 50x moves with very little help. And we're actually stronger than ever now. We have more distribution, we have more LP, we have more bought and burnt supply, and we have a larger community. So I look at everything that's kind of built up to this point, the suppression that Pulse Chain has put on us has actually built up pressure. And whenever that suppression gives, there'll be a massive season for the pTGC and UFO ecosystem.
Yeah, even just the chart here, you look at the chart with pTGC here, and you can see pretty clearly, I've been doing TA and stuff, learning this kind of stuff from mentors, buying books and watching videos and literally everything that you could probably think of. I've probably done it to learn TA for the past 10 years now. And one of the most basic things that you can do is Elliott wave principle. And a lot of people don't know how to apply it. And some people wonder if it's even useful, but it's actually one of the most powerful things. And trading desks use this all the time on Wall Street to be able to properly project markets and make, really, really good assessments of what's going to happen. And you can see a perfect example of a market cycle here with pTGC. We have a 5-wave impulse here. We have an ABC correction right here. And then we have bullish divergence as well right here on the MACD. So that's where the price goes for a lower low. But this thing on the bottom, this is called the MACD in this case we're using. You could also use the RSI to do this. But there's bullish divergence. So this is a very classic market cycle setup. Like, this is what I look for in markets to buy the dip, to position myself for the next big Elliott wave and for the next big pump in the market. And the fact that you guys were able to build up your resilience and stuff, even with, pulse chain pulling back and people getting concerned about Richard Hart and all the stuff that's happened for the past couple of years, the fact that you were able to build your community and it actually made you more resilient through all of that tells me that this market cycle that I see, this opportunity that I see in the chart, even before I ever talk to you or anybody else inside of this community, it gives me extra confidence that my analysis is right when I hear you talking about that kind of stuff. The fact that your community is stronger, you're more resilient than you were before, and you're able to maintain your growth even during all of the stuff that's been happening lately. But this is a perfect technical setup. That's exactly what you look for. This is exactly what I look for. I've seen the same type of thing multiple times in the market. You get a big 5-wave impulse followed by an ABC correction, and it bottoms out. At some point, it's going to bottom out, and it goes for another cycle. So imagine if you guys have, for the people out there that are watching this, imagine if you guys have your referral link set up on your X account or whatever, your social media platforms, or you're giving it to your friends, and then this goes for another cycle, and imagine putting, 5K or 3K or 10K into this market, and then it goes for another cycle. The type of growth, it's just worth the risk. Obviously, everything in life, there's risk to everything. You can't avoid risk completely, but this is basically risk-free in the sense that crypto is extremely high probability going to go for another big cycle. And so your risk is pretty small, actually, for a lot of this stuff. It's not completely non-existent, but it's pretty small and it's worth it. Like, the growth is worth the risk.
Yeah, definitely. The ability that we have due to the chain we're built on and due to the code itself of pTGC and the community itself of pTGC from these low levels, like UFO is at like a 96% discount right now. pTGC is at like a 92% discount. And a lot of that is because of just pulse chain massively pulling back from when we hit those highs. Like, if you switch the pTGC chart against pulse chain, which takes away the Hart's law, the pullback that we've gotten from our bonded liquidity, you can see that we're actually getting very close to pushing all-time highs again against the blockchain, which that's just buys and sells on the chart. That actually takes away. I don't know if you can pull that up if you want to look at it.
You said versus pulse chain, pTGC.
Yeah, hit that. So right now it will automatically bring you to the dollar. And
oh yeah, that's right. Yeah,
so this is pTGC versus pulse chain.
Oh man, that looks so freaking good, dude.
Yeah, and that takes away the reflexivity, the fact that pulse chain's been dragging us down. These are just pretty much bids on the chart and sells on the chart because it's against pulse chain itself. When the market's heading down, it's really hard to move up against the gas token because value is actually moving out of alts when the market is moving down. You can't just assume when the market moves down, everyone's only selling gas tokens and moving out. They're actually usually selling alts and moving out. So usually when gas tokens going down, you'll lose X's against the gas token. And then when the market's moving up, the sustainable products will actually do X's against the gas token because you automatically get the gains that the gas token gives you because all liquidity bonding is just ratios. For an example, if one pTGC was equal to one pulse and pulse goes to $1, pTGC automatically goes to $1. You don't actually need any buys on the chart because you've bonded yourself with liquidity and everything's ratio based. But what's awesome is when value flows into pulse chain or any blockchain, a good portion of that value wants more than just the gas token, right? For example, someone that goes into ETH, a large amount of people will just stay in ETH. That's all they want to hold. But there's a good portion of people that also want to speculate on alt tokens for their own specific code and wants and needs. So when that value trickles down to the alt tokens, that's an X multiplier effect. So you're automatically getting the value that landed on the gas token. That brings you up because that's where your liquidity is held. And then if a portion of that value trickles down to you, that pushes you up against the gas token. And that's the X multiplier effect that I can dig into. This is like really what's made pTGC successful is I spent a lot of time breaking down how to pull off the X's that everyone talks about wanting to do. So you'll hear people say like, oh, we have the goal of doing 100X. And it's like, well, have you mechanically broken that down to how that is possible? How can you pull off 1,000X? How can you pull off 100X? For an example, how do you pull off 100X from here with pTGC? It's actually very simple. Pulse Chain just does a 10X, and we do a 10X against Pulse Chain. For us to do a 10X against Pulse Chain from this level, it only takes like, I think like $1 million. Very little. Like in cryptocurrency, that's nothing. And that's how you can pull off 100X. Obviously, we have the goal of pulling off more. But my point is if you can see a chart uptrending against the blockchain when the blockchain hasn't even started moving yet, that means it's picking up buys when there's actually less and less people on the chain, which is, it's difficult to do. So this chart for me shows like, hey, we are growing, we're becoming stronger even in the bear. So when things flip around, we're primed for some serious growth.
This seriously, wow, this chart, dude, this looks so good. This is a perfect ABC correction right here. Versus Pulse Chain here. What this tells me is you've probably heard of market leaders before, how you'll have a coin even inside of an ecosystem. Like you might have Ethereum, then somebody built the coin on Ethereum, and that coin built on Ethereum pumps first, and then Ethereum pumps afterwards. And it's because that coin was leading. It's a market leader, and that's actually what pTGC looks like here, is a market leader in the Pulse Chain ecosystem, because it's growing against Pulse Chain before Pulse Chain. I mean,
and it's done that 2 times previously too. So Pulse Chain has bottomed, and pTGC will actually gain some traction right before Pulse Chain starts to go, and we've seen that 2 times already.
Yeah, it's seriously, this is again exactly what I look for. I always look for wave 1 and wave 2 in the market. That first, because according to Elliott wave principle, you always have a bullish impulse, wave 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So I'm looking for the little Elliott waves and the big Elliott waves, because there's little ones that happen and there's big ones that happen. The main ones that I look for in the market are the big Elliott waves. So I'm always trying to buy wave 2. Especially wave 2. If I can get in on wave 4 as well, that's obviously good. But wave 2 is the lowest risk with the highest reward. So buying wave 2 is like the most simple, powerful strategy you could ever learn. And that's exactly what pTGC is breaking out of here. We have wave 1 right here and wave 2. And we're actually going for our wave 3 here, but we're still in this wave 2. We're still, fairly undervalued here, even against Pulse Chain. And so this thing is really going to take off in a pretty profound way. And by the way, because of the way that this works, like you were saying, people buy Ethereum, then they buy other coins because they want to speculate. That's because people start thinking in terms of risk on, right? And that's exactly why these smaller coins pump so hard, even versus their gas tokens, like you say, because people are thinking in terms of risk on. They're already bullish on crypto, and they want to take more risk because they are very confident that crypto is going to pump, and they want to put their money where they're going to get the biggest bang for their buck. And that's exactly what I see here with pTGC, is one of those setups that's going to do that. And by the way, I'm like I literally just met Zen today. Like I've never talked to you before. I don't have any, you guys have never given me $1. Like I've just been doing technical analysis on my YouTube channel for like 10 years now. And I've seen enough charts to get excited about stuff. And I got excited about this ecosystem, and you guys reached out to me. So as much as I'm talking positively about pTGC, this is not a paid promotion. This is just literally my honest feelings when I look at the chart, you know, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on with us. It truly does mean a lot. I've spent, I'd say, a good portion of the last 5 years solely focusing on this project. I think it has the possibility of giving the top 50 cryptocurrencies a run for their money, which when you look at the top 50 cryptocurrencies, they're pretty much just all crypto companies with VCs involved and really not a lot of, you know, grassroots projects from going from 100K market cap all the way up to there. And I do think this product, as far as a grassroots community-driven product, has the ability to not only get into that zone with those top 50 cryptocurrencies, but also give them a run for their money. Because when you look at the top 50 cryptocurrencies, a lot of them are value generation systems as well. They have companies behind them and stuff like that. But a large portion of the value that those companies generate go to the company. Like they have tons of overhead, they have employees, etc. What really makes pTGC unique is it's completely decentralized and automated. So even though we are generating lots of value in the last year between pTGC and UFO, we've generated $3 million on a blockchain that's pretty much dead. I think we're going to be able to give these large companies and tokens a run for their money as far as value generation as well, because 100% of that value gets to go back to the token itself. And that's what's super unique about this product is as we grow, our value generation will grow. And then we just keep shoving all of that value back into all the places that matter with this specific product: buy and burns, LP ads, and APY for holders. Especially going into this cycle, APY for holding an asset is a huge talk, right? Like everyone's fighting over how you can earn APY and stuff. Well, pTGC has APY written within the code, and it's renounced code. You legitimately cannot turn off the APY going to you for holding this token, and you can't turn off the value generation as well, because we generate revenue off of the arbitrage bots that fix prices within the blockchain.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool too, because then you can trust it. You know, it's not like a bank where if you go to, they're going to change their percentages and screw with you, and it's centralized and they don't care about you. Like your system is built from the beginning with the user in mind, which is really how you're supposed to build anything, to be honest with you, is to think of your customers and your users first. So I really appreciate that. And the other thing that's cool too is that the these bigger companies and these bigger coins, they do have a lot of kind of, one of the challenges with them is they have a lot of extra baggage and extra weight, so it's harder for them to grow in a big way, whereas you have the ability to grow very quickly, very easily, very fast, which is pretty cool.
I think like right now the main use case for cryptocurrency is store of value, right? Like that's the big reason why I got into cryptocurrency is I still work, I still have businesses IRL, and I was looking for places after I got the businesses to levels that I was happy with. I was looking for a place to start storing value to where the value was actually respected and utilized. And the first place you'd automatically look is more like diversified stock accounts, etc. But a 10% growth out of a diversified stock account is not really enough here in the United States because inflation's pretty much at 10%. So if you're getting 10% out of a stock account, you're pretty much making nothing saving your money. So then you go and look at like, where else can I store value where I can get an appreciation that's greater than 10%, and you land in cryptocurrency. So where a lot of people have made the most in cryptocurrency is getting into speculative assets that turn into true store of values. So they get in at, let's say, Bitcoin when it's $50. Next thing you know, they held on for 10 years and it's $50,000. Well, they got all the X's, and now they're holding a premier store of value. This was kind of the idea with pTGC, is let's let people get in early who want to speculate. Let's get this thing to ride up crazy amounts of X's so their portfolio increases. And then as we become more of a store of value, because we're constantly adding liquidity, we're constantly buying and burning supply, we're going to pay these users APY at higher levels so they actually never need to leave.
So you're incentivizing them both to come and to stay, and it's a win-win for everybody too.
Yeah, because then if they stay, they don't sell the token that they initially bought, which keeps the asset scarce, which holds the price up, which creates an attractive chart for new users to continue to come in. And more importantly, a sustainable environment. You can do 1,000x, but if you don't go the following cycle to do more X's and beat that other all-time high, you just trapped a bunch of people at the top, right? It wasn't sustainable. So the goal here is every cycle, we want to remain more scarce. We want to keep adding LP, and we want to keep making higher highs and higher highs. So even for the user who bought the top, if they're willing to hold on, the following cycle will get you into profits, and obviously you'll be holding what we believe will be a premier store of value with the code specifically designed for price appreciation, sustainability, and built-in passive income. Where when you study a lot of other cryptocurrencies, this was kind of the route I went through, is when I got into cryptocurrency, I had a list of boxes I was looking to check, a place where I was willing to store my value that I was earning in the real world. And I went through hundreds of cryptocurrencies, from meme tokens, DeFi protocols, you name it, I went through it, and I couldn't find anything that was checking all the boxes. Even when I found something that would check all my boxes, there was always some sort of issue of, people behind the project just not being good actors, or you name it, or they just didn't get the traction that they deserved. I've seen plenty of good projects that came out that seemed awesome, but they just never got the traction due to launching at the wrong time or whatever. A big one is utility-based protocols. That was big 5 years ago. All these projects were coming out with utility in quotes, but the thing is with utility-based protocols is if you can't find someone to use that utility, none of it matters, right? So that's what's super unique about pTGC is the utility behind the protocol isn't dependent on a user using it. It's dependent on the only guarantee that the market can give you, and that's fluctuation of price up and down. So as prices move up and down, we generate revenue off of price shifts up and down, and we bring that value back to our ecosystem, which is really the big reason why we've been successful, because that's just what the market does every single day. It's the same exact model that pretty much Coinbase makes money off of. As money moves up and down, they charge users fees, and then they also charge arbitrage bots fees, and then they don't shove that value back into a token. It's obviously a company that they have to pay users out, but it's probably one of the most successful companies in the last 10 years. So I think it's a pretty amazing model to just shove that into a decentralized system and just continue to grow that decentralized system with automatic features, and hopefully everyone wins that's involved.
Right. Yeah, no, it's a really smart business model to not be dependent on, up or down so much as just volatility in general, which is partly why you're so resilient as a coin, and it's a smart way to set things up. And it looks like you've done your research and studying other companies and stuff as well to see kind of how they did it, to learn what you can learn from other people that were really successful. So you also have UFO here, same thing, right? 5-wave structure, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, followed by an ABC correction here, A, B, and C. And so that's a typical market cycle. I was trying to load on TradingView the example of the Japanese stock market, because actually the Japanese stock market had a bubble that looks exactly like this, the same type of human emotion, just on a different chart, different time scale, different place in the world. But because humans have similar reactions to stuff, you'll see pretty similar patterns a lot of times. And the Japanese stock market saw a full recovery. I can't get the chart to load on TradingView with all of the historical data right now, but it literally looks exactly like UFO, which is kind of cool. And for the people that are wondering, oh, well, that's apples and oranges and stuff and blah, blah, blah. Well, I would just say, look, listen, the entire pump on silver, I'm not trying to toot my own horn or anything, but I did call this entire pump on silver. And the reason that I called this pump on silver perfectly, mind you, like to exaction, was because of market cycle analysis and fractals and human emotion. And I basically was comparing silver to the internet bubble pop right here on the right, when silver was worth $12 per ounce or whatever down here. I was posting telling people, you guys, this is exactly the same as buying the bottom of the internet bubble in 2009 or 2003, and you guys are going to make a ton of money if you buy silver. It was because of comparing human emotion. Two completely different things, the US stock market versus silver. Some people would say apples and oranges. I see people make that argument all the time. I really don't care what they have to say, because I've been able to properly project these markets over and over again using this exact strategy. And for some reason, people fall for it every time, and they freaking do the wrong thing. But even on Bitcoin down here, 3K, and down here at 3K again right here, when it was bottoming out, I used the exact same fractal. If you look at the NASDAQ on the right, people were panic selling. They were calling for $1,000 per coin, $500 per coin. I remained bullish because I was comparing it to the NASDAQ here when Bitcoin was bottoming out right here. Just perfectly called this whole pump on Bitcoin up to 126,000 because of this comparison that I was making on the NASDAQ. So you can compare charts together. It's just a common myth that people have that you can't do that. And UFO looks a lot like, I'm trying to get the whole Japanese index here. I can't seem to find it, but it basically looked like the Japanese stock market at the bottom before it saw full recovery. Like it's the same fractal here on pTGC. Oh, did I? Okay, cool. Let me switch tabs. I'm glad I switched tabs because I thought for a sec I didn't. But this one right here, UFO, it truly does look very similar to the bottom. I can't get the whole chart for some reason on TradingView, but it's basically was kind of like the same human emotion. Fractal is buying the bottom of the Japanese stock market here on UFO. So those comparisons do work. They are powerful. They are useful. And it's just a common myth that for some reason the world of crypto thinks you can't compare charts together. And I'm like, you guys, literally the best analysts I know in the entire world are looking at cycles and comparing them and learning as much as they possibly can about these cycles so that they can make the most well-informed decisions with their money. And that's kind of why I wrote this ebook completely free too. You guys can download this on my YouTube channel in the description, or just go to my Discord and go to Knowledge and Links. But in this ebook I actually wrote this in 2019. If you go down to the section on the market cycles, you can see that I was comparing Bitcoin to the bottom of the internet bubble when Bitcoin was worth $3,000 per coin here, long before Bitcoin ever went up to 126,000. So to compare cycles together and understand the human emotion and the market cycle is extremely powerful if you know what you're doing, but most people don't. So that's the big thing. They just don't have the right knowledge, but it's pretty cool.
Yeah, most people are the emotional ones. They're the ones causing that chart, not the ones studying it, right?
Yeah.
There's a topic suggestion on the screen from Crypto Mando. He says, please talk about the fact that the LPs are at all-time lows and what that means for the X multiplier.
Yeah, so here's Pulse Chain, right? Pulse Chain is in a big falling wedge. So every coin, it doesn't really matter what you're talking about. Different coins, when they get released, if it's not at the bottom of a bear market, because some coins do get released at the bottom of bear markets, but for the most part, coins get released when people are excited, right? So they almost always go into some type of accumulation pattern after, whether it's a falling wedge, like you see with Pulse Chain here, whether it's like what happened to Litecoin, where Litecoin just jumped off a cliff. I'm talking when it first got added in 2013, not the current cycle. Litecoin fell off a cliff and did something like this, and then it pumped. So there's different kind of patterns that can appear in the market, but basically Pulse Chain is in an accumulation pattern. It's in a falling wedge. We have bullish divergence. Every reason in the world to believe that any day now this thing is going to bottom. When this thing bottoms and when it turns around in the other direction and all of the bearishness that everybody's been attached to flips into bullishness and starts to pump, you're going to see these other coins, these multiplier coins like pTGC and other coins just completely explode because of the fact that there's going to be so much fuel to the fire. It's like pouring gasoline on a bonfire.
I think it's good to bring up too, like how you mentioned that a lot of times tokens launch in the bull market because that's when the hype is, that's when the money's flowing, and usually people follow the money. Pulse Chain Sacrifice was like at the legit peak of the bull market. So that was kind of when everyone made that investment into it, even though it took 2 years to come out. That value was very much put in at the top, like you're saying. So it did need that distribution period, probably a lot longer than people realize. Like technically we've been falling for 3 years, but we are at a point, I feel very, very strongly, that we're probably getting close to a bottom, especially if ETH and Bitcoin start bottoming out as well. We should probably see that reversal, and we've never been better distributed, and it's never been easier to get X's than where we are right now on Pulse Chain. And going back to what Mando's comment was, this is what's super unique about pTGC compared to when it did a lot of its X's prior. Our liquidity is currently a lot thinner on pTGC because Pulse Chain has went down so low, not because we've removed liquidity and not because people have sold the price down repetitively, but because the assets that we're bonded to are 10x lower, right? So Pulse Chain's 10x lower, and your liquidity is very much made up of token you're bonded to, not only the buys and sells on your chart. So just like if Pulse Chain went up 10x, we have roughly $2 million in liquidity right now with pTGC. If Pulse Chain went up 10x, that would be $20 million in liquidity, right? Because when you increase the token you're bonded to, you do those X's and your liquidity rises evenly. If you decrease the token you're bonded to, which has been happening, you divide your liquidity evenly as you get beat down. So it really thins out your liquidity. And that's another reason why pTGC has never been so easy to pump, because the liquidity has never been so thin, because Pulse Chain has never been so low. Thinner liquidity means less value is needed to get the price moving up. So those X's that we've done previously, those were actually done in a more difficult environment for X's than we're previously in. The environment that Pulse Chain's actually created for pTGC right now is the thinnest liquidity with pTGC that we've seen in multiple years, which becomes easier to pump, and the token that we're connected to is at all-time lows. And Banana, I don't know if later on you want to pull up the X-multiplier calculator we have down. If you haven't seen this site, it's ptgc-ufo.com. It's a great site to look at a lot of the stats and the tools that we have for our community. But what it shows is it takes very little money for us to do like a 10x against Pulse Chain. I think it costs like $1 million. And then if Pulse Chain just goes to, let's say, sacrifice price 301, well, that's like a 15x from these levels. And then if we did our 10x, which costs like nothing, that's 150x for people who are exposed to pTGC.
Is it under statistics or?
So this is the main DApp. This is the site that pretty much I created for the product.
Okay.
There's a community built site called ptgc-ufo.com.
Okay.
I can pull it up. I've got it pulled up.
Okay, yeah, cool.
So this site is built by one of our community members. He updates it like every week with new stuff. It's super, super cool. I actually use it more than my own DApp, even though the DApp has the contracts to interact with. But he did better than what I did. Cool. So I just use this for information. And then if you need to interact with the DApp, you use the main site. But this site, there's no connecting or anything like that. You don't connect your wallet or anything. It's all just informational based. And he has these calculators built in that really show you how easy it is with pTGC to do crazy amounts of X's because Pulse Chain has been brought down so low. Like what Richard has kind of set up for the Grays ecosystem is like the easiest assist ever. He's like, hey, I'm going to set up the perfect scenario for you. You can have these really cheap prices to build your liquidity. You can have these really cheap prices to ratio yourself higher against Pulse Chain. And when it's go time, it's going to flood into your ecosystem because pTGC is bonded to everything on Pulse Chain. So that's one thing, I was talking about earlier. I studied a lot of different crypto projects in the design of pTGC, but I also studied a bunch of IRL products as well. So if you look at like the financial sector, the largest sector of finance is index stocks. It's pretty much where most of the value is held. People love the idea of by holding one, you hold all. It's very easy for them to use. So pTGC and UFO use this same model for Pulse Chain, and we're evolving to use this same model with any EVM token. So eventually we're going to be getting wrapped Bitcoin in here. We're going to be getting wrapped Ethereum in here and other bridged-in assets. So we're going to create the diversification all in one product via bonded liquidity. And then we don't only expose our community to this, but we also generate revenue off of this. We actually have already started the wrapped ETH connection as well. So we're already generating revenue off of wrapped ETH and exposing our community to it. But I was just bringing that up real quick. We're not only studying DeFi, meme tokens, stuff like that. We're also studying IRL products, like what gives value in real life and what products have shown to be very successful in real life as well, and trying to incorporate that on blockchain. But so this is the X multiplier. It really just helps show everyone how easy it is to get growth on Pulse Chain. You can actually load your own pTGC portfolios in here with just wallet addresses, and you can hit that button that says download my portfolio or whatever, but you can also just type in the numbers. Banana, could you type in the high that Pulse Chain made roughly 6 months after launch? It's roughly 3 zeros and a 2. So these are numbers that Pulse Chain has been at before. These things I think we can easily achieve in the next cycle. If you want, you can maybe chart that for us on Pulse Chain. I think hitting these highs that we've hit previously are super easy for Pulse Chain. So that's 3 zeros, 2. And then let's do a 10x multiplier for pTGC. So what this is us doing a 10x in ratio against Pulse Chain. So right now we're breaking up to close to our all-time high. When value starts flowing in, it's been very, very easy for us to do X's against Pulse Chain because of value flowing into blockchain, new users, new money. And we just like to showcase like what price this equals for pTGC. And this is all mechanically based. This is us breaking down how AMMs work, how V2 liquidity structure works, and coming up with a plan on how to get 100x, how to get 1000x. And if you know how to do it, then you know where to go.
Yep. All right. Do you want to see what the results are?
Yeah, please.
Okay. So Pulse Chain doing a 26.4x from its current price. pTGC doing 10x against, above Pulse Chain. That would put that'd be a 264x for pTGC, putting it at 3.2 cents and a market cap of $9.4 billion.
So that's where I say, like, giving the biggest cryptocurrencies a run for their money and starting to knock on their door, it's actually very easy. You just have to know the equation to get there. And the biggest piece is building on a blockchain that's undervalued, right? If you build on Ethereum right now, you're building on a blockchain that's already done 1000x. You have literally missed out on a free 1000x you would have given your crypto token if you built at the beginning of Ethereum. So by having the ability to build on a blockchain before it does any of its X's, it's a massive multiplier to whatever you can do on your own. You are building in a city before there's any infrastructure and there's any people living there, right? There is risk involved there when you are starting the development of a brand new city. But if the land is right, if the sun's shining, you're next to the water, you see everything that you're looking for in a thriving city. It's a good crossroads of a lot of other cities. Like, if you see all those indicators checking a box, it makes a lot of sense to say, hey, we're going to build here and we're going to build on top of, we're going to buy all the beachfront properties, all the main street properties, and we own it all now. And that's kind of what pTGC and UFO's structure has been designed to do, is we're buying up all the HEX, we're buying up all the PulseX, we're buying up all the Pulse, we're even buying up ETH and stuff like that, and we're making it to where all that value is held by our specific decentralized system.
And we're not just buying up those tokens, but we're burning the LP.
Yeah, and that's why it never can get turned off. So as long as Pulse Chain exists, this is what's really unique about pTGC, is we've gotten it to a stage where as long as Pulse Chain exists, you legitimately cannot turn it off. It's renounced code, and then the liquidity pools are burnt. So as long as there's fluctuation on Pulse Chain between the assets that we're bonded to, which is like 20 different tokens, the machine will always keep running.
Yeah, the other thing too, a lot of people don't realize how actually strong the whole community for the Richard Hart ecosystem is. I mean, of course, just like any other community, people get in little disputes and stuff, but there's a lot of people here and they're really passionate about it. And there's actually a lot of volume and a lot of demand for these projects, and people are really in love with the community and with the coins, and it's a good spot to be. It's a good spot to build. It's smart to build here, and it really makes a lot of sense. Like you say, there's a ton of opportunity. You don't have to deal with being 1,000x up from the bottom. In fact, if anything, we're extremely undervalued with the entire ecosystem, which is really cool.
Yeah, prices are so low now, we don't need 100x from like the price a lot of people bought at or anything like that. Like, we are now showing that we've been able to be this strong in this hard of environment, like this difficult environment. As long as Pulse Chain like just goes back to levels that it's been before, pTGC then starts to give, like I said, the top 50 of cryptocurrencies a run for their money. And I think structure-wise, code base, we have everything everyone is looking for. We have built-in APY, we're going to have the liquidity, we're going to have the diversification, and then we have buy and burn built into the code. I personally think if we can get this, and then it's got a fun mascot too. Like, everyone's thought about aliens once in their life. It's constantly reoccurring on the news. If you're into memes, it's memeable. I look at it more as a mascot. If you look at all sports teams and even large companies, they do use mascots to use for community building and morale. So that's kind of the alien to our system. It's the mascot behind it, and I think it'll get a lot of people's attention.
No, that's genius, man. That's super smart to have that kind of a mascot. It's so memorable, and it's like the thing that's like the number one thing in our current consciousness as human beings. Like, aliens are such a big deal in the world.
I truly think it's the best mascot that could exist in cryptocurrency. I know I'm biased for saying that because it's a mascot for the product that I'm in, but when you kind of think of what would be a good mascot for cryptocurrency, everyone's talking about going to the moon all the time and stuff like that. You also want something that's constantly a reoccurring narrative. I was literally just on Twitter yesterday, and my feed was filled with people talking about how the government's going to be coming out with an alien pretend invasion here in the next couple of weeks and stuff like that because Trump said something. So it's constantly reoccurring to where you put it in front of their face, which in cryptocurrency, a lot of people flop on. There'll be like this big thing that comes out, but it only lasts 1 week. And they'll make their product behind that big news event, but it's like that news event's dead next week. Like, so then your project is dead.
Yep.
So pTGC with the gray alien, what's super cool is even when the news dies up a little bit and people aren't talking about it, it's one of the most Googled things. It's one of the most watched things on YouTube. And on top of that, there's always this thing like within a couple months that re-sparks back the energy of people asking like, what's going on with these aliens? Like, are they going to say that they're here or not?
Yeah, no, it really is. It's like a enduring narrative, whereas, and it's like a very, very memorable thing. Whereas, like, Peanut the squirrel or whatever was like, really everybody talked about it for a while, but now I don't know anybody talking about Peanut the squirrel. Unfortunately, rest in peace.
Yeah,
but you know what I mean. It's like not as very.
Yeah.
It's not enduring,
And then obviously it's fun because I feel like a lot of people think about fiat currencies, whatever country you live in the same way. It's just like mind blowing that we're even in the situation of how we have debt to some entity that's just a made up currency, and it has this crazy inflation to where they just keep printing, but then we're paying fees, but none of those fees or those taxes actually go to helping the currency whatsoever. And it's kind of this big rat race system. So the idea is like, hey, the intelligence above us or whatever, the aliens above us, they have a currency out there, and it takes a fee, but 100% of that fee is used to making it to where your value actually is increasing over time as long as you hold it. And if you're holding it, that asset is a miner of more of it, even with the supply deflationary. So you don't have to worry about more supply coming out in the future, which is a scarcity idea. But then on top of that, you're not getting diluted by any miners as well, as long as you hold on to your bag. So that's something that's big with Bitcoin is you're constantly competing with faster computers and more computers fighting for the decreasing mining abilities, with the halvings and everything like that. So people who were mining 10 years ago with just a desktop, it's a whole lot different nowadays. A lot of those people can't even compete, but they haven't changed anything. They just got pretty much taken out by evolving technology and more competition. With pTGC, your pTGC token is your APY. That's how you're mining the value that gets generated every single day. As long as you don't sell your pTGC tokens, the power of your pTGC tokens becomes stronger and stronger and stronger, not diluted, because it's a deflationary token. And as soon as the tokens get bought and burnt, you no longer have to compete against those tokens anymore. So this also incentivizes hodling, which at the end of the day, community members hodling and onboarding is the most important thing for a cryptocurrency.
Yeah, it really is. That's the difference between 99% of all of them, is just that they're just building a pump and dump versus something that they really believe in, And so
100%. A lot of people don't realize that 99.9% of cryptocurrency is designed to get the valuable tokens out of your wallet into their wallet and to give you a made up meme token with no value and just get that swap. They want the ETH or the Pulse literally out of your wallet into those LP pools, so then they can go and get that value into their wallet, and then they just get you over their token that they sold you the idea of it having value in the future, which they never had that intent anyways.
yeah, they've already rug pulled, as everybody says, right? They're gone at that point, and it's like,
yeah, there's so many different ways of doing it than just a rug pull. Like, it doesn't need to even be a rug pull. It just, they sell you an idea that just is false. And then their idea that they had there, the goal was never for that idea to be successful. It was for you to put your valuable tokens in the LP pool for them to take it.
Which is probably like 80% of these coins, especially on Dex Screener, that are just pumping and dumping all the time.
It's way more. It's 99%.
Yeah, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Can I share my screen one more time?
Absolutely.
Cool. So one thing I want to show here with Pulse Chain too is the same type of pattern that happened on Pulse Chain. On Bitcoin happened currently on Pulse Chain. So you see this correction here with Pulse Chain, this falling wedge structure right here. This is something I've seen before, having been in these markets for long enough. I've seen this hundreds of times probably. And this example here is actually very similar to the same type of falling wedge that happened on Bitcoin. So for the people that don't know, Bitcoin did the same type of a wedge back in 2018. Everybody was bearish down here, like crazy bearish at 3K. They thought it was dead. They didn't see any value in it. And that's pretty much the same thing that Pulse Chain has done right here. We're at the bottom of a wedge. So the upside potential is very big, very, in terms of percentage gain, very, very high. So a break above this previous all-time high, I would put it extremely likely over the next year or so. For sure, we're going to have, I really believe 2026 is going to be a bullish year. I know it started out a little bit weak on some coins, but I really believe 2026 is going to be a bullish year, and that 2027 is going to be crazy bullish, because we're moving into this bigger cycle with the crypto markets. And I know that's not a common narrative, but 90% of people lose money in these markets because they follow the crowds. So you really just have to look at these charts, objectively. And when you look at these charts objectively, there's a really good case for buying as much crypto as you can possibly humanly afford right now. I mean, even like I said,
So
crypto
can I
market
point
cap
out
looks like
something where you, on both those charts,
Sure.
let's start with the pulse one
Yep.
first. So you see where you started, like your falling wedge right on the top of that high. So that was the price I was just referring to in that X multiplier calculator. That was that 3 zeros.
Get to there.
Yeah, so that was the math that I used there. And then if you look at your Bitcoin chart, it literally just barely broke that same exact point on that falling wedge for Bitcoin. And then that's where it kind of had a little bit of resistance and it needed a little cool off period. And it came down a little bit, but then it went and broke that super heavily. So when I bring that up, like we could very easily, if we followed the same thing, go and retest those levels that we just used in that X multiplier calculator. Obviously have a little cool off period. A bunch of people are in profits that bought the bottom, but then go on and break those highs and do some crazy numbers with. Go ahead.
Yeah, this wouldn't surprise me in the slightest just to see this kind of a move with Pulse Chain. And this could happen by the end of this year. Like I really believe 2026 is going to be a good year. We could be at those levels by the end of 2026. This area right here of resistance, right? Going across.
Awesome. Like really seeing pTGC wake up, getting to see pTGC and UFO. Be on Pulse Chain, with Pulse Chain just having some sort of upwards momentum, new users, new volume. This will really kick the pTGC machine on. I've done some forward-looking estimations. If the machine just keeps running at the levels it's been running with volume and liquidity increasing, it really does become self-sustaining because it kind of self-powers itself with how much liquidity we've been able to add. And obviously it's at lower levels right now, so it's harder to see when you're only generating $3 million a year. You know, that's, I think, somewhat impressive, but it doesn't like get the attention of people. But with just 10xing our liquidity, we can very easily see $30 million of value generation a year. Or if we can get our system, let's say 100x up and our liquidity 100x up, well, we could see levels of $300 million of value generation a year. And when you think of $300 million constantly getting shoved into the price, liquidity, and APY of a system, what that creates is anyone that holds a decent bag doesn't need to leave because it's a hyper deflationary system that's paying them APY for remaining in the system, and that constantly gets more LP ads. But then for other users from the outside looking in, they have the opportunity to get into maybe not a speculative asset anymore. Like that's the evolution of these things. Ethereum went from speculative to store of value. Bitcoin went from speculative to store of value. But the goal is to become a better store of value than some of the best cryptocurrency store of values that exist.
Yeah. Also, too, the other thing I wanted to bring up too, just to kind of bring home my point with Pulse Chain, is you can see here this bullish divergence as well. So it's not just the falling wedge, right? I wouldn't just be bullish on this just for one thing. Like I always try to look for multiple reasons to be either bullish or bearish, you know, and whatever I find more evidence of is what I lean towards. So that's the way I approach analysis, is gather as much data as possible from the most simple but yet powerful tools that you can use, like trading patterns, Elliott waves, market cycles, those kinds of things, and then create an assessment. And if I find more evidence to be bullish or I find more evidence to be bearish, adjust my personal perspective accordingly. And you can see that Pulse Chain also has this bullish divergence going all the way back to 2023. Multiple years of bullish divergence, and you can see here's an example of what bullish divergence looks like in the top right, with lower lows in price and higher lows on the indicator. So this is primed any day to bottom out, to turn around, and to pump. And it could easily and most commonly does go to that first area of major resistance when that happens. You know, super exciting.
Yeah, that's awesome. I never realized that divergence with that huge time frame on Pulse Chain.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's literally this whole thing has been accumulation, you know?
Yeah, I've watched the pTGC one for a while because there was like a whole, I think it was like a 6-month one going on pTGC, but that one on Pulse Chain is insane. 2 years of it.
Yeah, it's crazy. So that's why I decided, you know what? I'm going to start talking about these coins because I see the value in them in terms of how hard they're going to pump and stuff. The purpose of my channel is to help people make money investing. Like my primary focus is customer results, right? If my viewers, my VIP members, my one-on-one people, whatever, if they're making money because of what I'm doing, then I'm fulfilling my why, my purpose for building my business, right? If they make money, I make more money. So obviously it's a win-win for everybody, but that's my why for my business. And I saw the opportunity and said, I've seen enough charts. I cannot deny what I'm seeing. I don't care if there's people out there that hate this community in the world of crypto. I'm going to do what I honestly believe, which is that these charts are going to pump and tell people that. And just one more example here too, because I do got to go here in just a second, but you can see here we have the total crypto market cap. This is kind of what we started with, but I want to bring it home for our viewers. We have the total crypto market cap on the left, and we have Apple computers on the right. The opportunity for investing in crypto right now is very similar to having bought Amazon or Apple or Microsoft or any of those companies associated with the internet or home computing before they became big names, before they were mass adopted. That's really where crypto is at right now in its cycle. And that's the reason why you should be excited. You should be investing as much as possible into this market while the opportunity is this good.
Sweet. I understand you gotta jump. Everybody,
yeah, I gotta go soon, you guys. I mean, obviously, shout out to pTGC as well. Again, this is not a paid anything. I've never received a dime from you guys, but I really do believe pTGC will pump very hard because of the cycle, along with the rest of crypto. But it's going to give you a bigger gain, and it's a better opportunity than 90% of tokens out there.
Right on.
So
it's been a pleasure having you here today.
Yeah, it's been super fun.
Yeah, cool. Nice to meet you. And then real quick before you go, if you have any questions about the affiliate system that we recently launched, it's only 2 months old, but it is a great way if you're someone who has a channel or a public figure on Twitter or whatever, and you're looking to onboard people to pTGC. When they buy through your affiliate link, they're technically giving you a 2% tip of whatever they buy, and it does not come out of their purchase directly. They're getting the exact same price if they bought on Pulse X. What you get paid out at the end of the month is from the DAO. pTGC has a DAO, and we've created a system that automatically pays users out. So if you have any questions and you want to create an affiliate link, you do earn pTGC for onboarding to pTGC directly. You're also getting reflections and staking rewards when you own pTGC. That's off of everyone's effort, but you can now directly benefit for your own efforts of onboarding to pTGC. I think that's heavily missing in the cryptocurrency space. When you look at IRL businesses, the sales rep is the one that gets the compensation for onboarding, etc. And we tried to set up a very decentralized and automated system to the best of our ability. We had limitations due to pTGC's code already out, but luckily we do have a DAO that we're able to build a feature into the system to get people who are actively onboarded directly rewarded for their efforts. So if you need help making one, if you want to make one, hit up.
He made one last night. I'm showing it on
the
screen.
I actually made one last night, but yeah, that's super cool. And by the way, for the people viewing, imagine if you guys are able to get your link out right now, like if you guys are able to start sharing your link early on, like we're at the bottom of a big cycle or nearing the bottom soon, either way. So imagine if you guys as viewers are able to put your link out publicly, even if you don't have a big channel, even if you don't have a lot of influence, even just with your friends on your social media accounts and stuff, get your links out, get people aware of what pTGC is early on. And when the markets pump, you guys will have a huge advantage over most people. So.
Yeah, you know, might as well get it out at the bottom, because if you're onboarding, you might as well get people in at cheap prices. They're going to get more tokens. And then you, as the onboarder, you get paid in pTGC. So the more pTGC they buy with, let's say they're $10,000, the more pTGC you get as your reward. So it just, for me, I think it makes more sense if you're going to put in a little bit of effort, big channel or no channel. You might just be reaching out to coworkers or IRL people. You get more if you onboard at the bottom, more for them, more for yourself, and it actually helps pTGC's price more, because at low levels, liquidity is thinner. So that $10,000 buy actually does more for the pTGC chart when they come in at lows than if they came in after a 10x. If someone came in with $10,000 after the 10x, it does very little to the chart because liquidity has increased rapidly. But if you get them in with $10,000 now, it actually pushes the price up a lot more. So it's good for you, it's good for them, and it's good for pTGC putting the efforts in at the low prices.
I'm gonna have to get one of those T-shirts that Eric has over there. That looks pretty sweet. That pTGC T-shirt.
They're custom. They're custom made.
Oh, they are? Did you make it yourself?
Yeah, I bought the shirt on Amazon and had it embroidered at a local
nice.
shop.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah. Thank you, though.
Well, that's so cool. No, seriously though, I'm excited about the pump. You guys have a great logo, great mission. Sounds like you have good intent too. You're not just doing this, you know, just to try to get money from your people. Like, you're building something you really believe in. And I really respect that. And that's super cool how much time and energy you guys have been putting into it. I'm excited to be part of the pump that's coming in this ecosystem and with this coin as well. And the future is bright, you guys. Like, a lot of you guys' dreams are going to be coming true. Like, this is the cycle where all of the waiting, the dreams that you've been looking for, you know, the debt that you want to pay or whatever, the house you want to buy, like, that's going to become a reality because of this cycle.
Wow.
So.
Wow, that's pretty exciting. We probably better let you go.
Yeah.
You got another appointment. And
thank you so much for having me on, you guys.
I appreciate you coming on, Dalin.
Yeah, that was super, super fun. I'd be happy to do it again. And yeah, any way I can help out and make sure that you guys are growing and helping reach your goals and stuff, let me know, and we'll keep in touch. So
cool. So before we close it out, everybody go follow Dalin on X. There's a high altitude in investing. And then subscribe to his YouTube also. He has a private group that you can join. It's in Discord. You can find him on Discord. And then if you're buying pTGC, use his referral link. And there it is. And it'll be I'll put it in the description of the video. So buy some pTGC with Dalin's referral link. Let's get him a pie chart on.
Yeah, just buy some pTGC, period. Like, if you use my referral link or not, obviously I'm cool if you do.
There you go. But
seriously, like, this chart is going to pump. Like, I really believe that with all of my heart. I've seen this stuff enough to know what happens, and I'm confident enough to risk, like, my entire reputation on YouTube and everything because of the markets pumping and stuff. So, yeah.
Right on. Thanks, everybody, for being here.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, Dalin. I was super stoked to meet you.
Yeah, this is awesome. You guys all stay profitable out there, as I always say in my streams.
Awesome. Thanks, man.
Yep. See you later.